'Tis the season for carousels and attrition within college football programs. Yes, that means not just relegated to the world of coaching changes, but to the carousels that form now within college athletes transferring out to different programs. Auburn has recently had some players decide to stay for some more time with the football program. Let's talk about who that is and the impact of them deciding to stay. Welcome to the E2C network, where the Auburn family speaks. Our content here and on our podcast network may tend to be Auburn sports heavy, but if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you never miss any content. Thank you to members of our booster club like Dustin Smith, who help produce videos like this. This is an ever-changing topic within Auburn football during the offseason, as it is most offseasons, but especially in this day and age with transfer portals. So the things that we talk about in this video obviously are going to have changes and things alter and additions to people deciding to stay on the Auburn football program or leave, because there's still a few players out there that are making their decisions. But we've had a core group decide to stay at Auburn, and I think they're worthy to all talk about together because of their significant impact in certain areas of the football program. But to do that and to understand the full weight and context within why it's so important that these guys have decided to stay, we also need to talk a little bit about who has left and help you understand the full context of everything. So as a reminder, I want to run through a couple of the people that have already decided to leave the Auburn football program, whether that be through the transfer portal, declaring for the draft, or things like that. Just some important names to note. First off the top, Zacoby McClain, Chandler Wooten, linebackers that have decided to declare for the draft and have used up their eligibility respectively. Obviously, there's Bo Nix, who has transferred out to Oregon. We discussed that one in full detail. If you want to understand our thoughts on all that, check out that video. We'll post a link below. Other names to consider are Tayshawn Manning, who was an offensive lineman, who can be a defensive lineman too, and I think that's what he's declared himself in the transfer portal. Elijah Canyon, wide receiver, Sean Shivers, running back, Caleb Johnson, an edge rusher, and Ladarius Tennyson, which was a bigger surprise for me, at the safety position. Those are some of the bigger names that have decided to declare or move on, and there's plenty of others, but important ones that I wanted to discuss right at the top to kind of put you in perspective of what we're talking about with the ones that have now decided to stay. So again, these things are going to be having additions or clarifications on other ones that we're not talking about in this video, but these five right here within the last couple of days have decided to stay. Let's start off with number one on this list, Owen Pappoe. This is probably one of the ones that everyone was most excited about. Number one, because he is the last of the group of linebackers that we have left, with Chandler Wooten and Zacoby McClain leaving. He's the only guy left that has some significant experience in senior leadership left, and so you really want to have a guy like him stay behind. He was plagued by injuries, so you have to wonder how much that factored into the decision and how it would have affected him in the NFL draft if he had gone this season. I have to think that obviously played into his decision, but he obviously sees some value in playing one more season to hopefully give him a boost in the NFL draft. And if he has a significant year, I think he'll go very, very high. A lot of these players that we're discussing are going to be on the defensive side, which I think should go to show you that this could be a year where we actually get some expectations met on the defensive side of the ball. Also, let's talk about a couple of defensive edge rushers or defensive ends, depending on how you want to categorize them or look at them. You got Colby Wooden. It's also a great story because he gets to play one more year with his brother, who is coming in. We've had that happen a lot within the Auburn football program over the past couple of years, so it's awesome to see that happen at least one more time, and probably won't be the last time that we see it happen in the future. Also, I will say this, that he was a great contributor at defensive end for Auburn, and it's also something that's going to be much needed for him and the rest of the players at the position to build upon creating a better rush for the defense this year. We saw it at times, especially when they were really unleashed by the scheme, and I think he is one of the people that was benefited from that and really showed out that we should be rushing a little bit more on the defensive line than we have been in the early parts of the season. There's also edge rusher Derek Hall, as I call him, the Hall Monitor. He is the beast out there. The man literally has no neck because he's made of pure muscle. Extremely excited to have him complimenting Colby Wooden there. It's going to create some great ability to rush the ball going forward. And on top of that, defensive tackle Marquis Burks. While you didn't see him starting a lot, you saw him in the rotation fully. He got a couple of forced fumbles, quarterback sacks, quarterback hurries. In the time that he was in there, he made a significant impact, which makes him an important part of the depth. One of the things that you do not want to see happen when you switch players out is there be a humongous drop-off in the production and the talent that you're putting out there in the field. Marquis Burks actually brings that to the table and does a really good job of not letting there be any drop-off when he comes onto the field. So those three together alone, Colby Wooden, Derek Hall, and Marquis Burks, are huge, especially when you talk about them together. And this is one I think that makes us all happy, whether it's you're excited about his production, what he means for the offense, but just being an Auburn guy, and that's tight end John Samuel Shanker. We all saw the social media pic of him and several of his other officially seniors sitting out there in the field one last time after the Iron Bowl, soaking it in, and it looked like a very solemn and sad picture watching for the last time being in Jordan-Hare Stadium. Well, I'm happy to say that John Samuel Shanker, I'll have to struggle through that name for at least one more season. He's a guy who in the past has been a dual sport athlete at Auburn, playing on the baseball team for a few seasons, also playing football, so that was a unique storyline in and of itself. And he's become an incredibly integral part of the offense when they utilize him, especially this season, and a very sure-handed catcher at that. With a defense that looks poised, especially with the turners they have, to be a little bit more formidable next season, they're really looking for pieces to fit together in an offense that is still going to be trying to find its footing in the 2022 season. Having a guy like John Samuel Shanker is going to be incredibly valuable for whoever's at quarterback, who's ever on the offensive line, whoever is making up this offense and the scheme that they're going to be running in 2022. So while those are the big important ones that I want to discuss, and there will be others coming up in the future, I'm sure, I think it's important also to address the ones that as of this video haven't announced anything, and there's some speculation as to whether or not they're going to come back. You got Anders Carlson out there. I think he probably has a little bit of a case to make for coming back, personally, if I'm just looking at with his injury. And kickers usually don't get drafted unless they're just absolutely outstanding in the case of Daniel Carlson. So if he wants to better his options of that, or even just getting picked up, I think it would benefit him to come back after his injury and try to do this one more year. And then offensively, you got to look on the offensive line. And even though I've talked a lot about this channel about that there's some players at that position that have really not contributed as a unit together, I think there is some value in bringing some of them back to transition into the next period of this offensive line makeup. Nick Brahms is one of those. I think he has one more year of eligibility he could use with the whole COVID situation, and Austin Troxell as well. I've never really picked on one person individually within the offensive line scheme, but I do think there are some of the ones that have left that were a little bit more questionable if we tried to pick on individuals that have decided to leave. Not necessarily saying they're going to make a huge difference by staying, but I think giving them a little bit more stability on the offensive line, if those two decide to stay, will obviously help in some way, even if it's just transitioning to the new guard in the coming season on offensive line. So again, importantly, we discussed those 5 that are officially staying as of this video. We talked about those who have left and those that may be staying. I want to know from you now which of the 5 that have officially decided to stay are going to make you the most excited for 2022. Let me know down there in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this type of content, please help support it by smashing that like button. And if you want more content from us, be sure to hit the subscribe and the notification bell so you never miss an upload or a live stream. There's also ways to help support our content listed in the description below. You can become a channel member here on YouTube, or even go over to patreon.com/E2C Network to become a member of the E2C Network Booster Club. Both of those start at $1 a month. Thank you for tuning into the E2C Network, where the Auburn family speaks. War Eagle.